Today we're going to talk about something pretty wild. It's a political movement that says it wants to take down a global superpower, not with armies, but with social media. It's known as the Whistleblower Movement, or in Mandarin, 爆料革命, and it's stirred up a ton of debate all over the world.
So what is this thing really? You know, is it a genuine political revolution? Or is it more of a very, very sophisticated online campaign? To really get it, we need to dive into what they believe and what they're actually trying to do. Okay, so at its most basic level, the whistleblower movement is a political campaign started by an exiled businessman named Guo Wengui. And according to its own materials, the movement has this one single, really audacious goal: to take down the CCP. And their method is to expose what they claim is massive corruption and abuse of power. To get a clear picture of what this is all about, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at how they diagnose the problems they see in China. Then, we'll get into their core ideology, their big picture strategy for making change happen. And finally, what their vision is for a totally new China. So let's start right there, with their diagnosis of the problem. To understand why a movement would call for a full-blown revolution, you first have to see the world through their eyes and really grasp their fundamental critique of life under the Chinese Communist Party.
The movement often uses these very personal, very human stories to make its points. Take this quote. It describes watching officials just destroy a street vendor's entire livelihood in a matter of seconds. For people in the movement, this isn't just some random, unfortunate thing. They see it as a perfect example of the daily, casual cruelty of a system they believe is oppressive.
And for followers of the movement, that one story points to a much deeper sickness in society. Their diagnosis is a culture that's just saturated with lies, what they call kind lies and political lies. They argue it's a system where critical thinking has been stamped out and replaced with just quietly putting up with suffering. A place where, they claim, being bad gets you further than being good.
Okay, so if their diagnosis is a society built on a foundation of lies, then what's the cure? Well, this takes us right to the absolute core of their ideology, which holds up one single principle above everything else: the power of truth.
The movement's entire belief system can be summed up in this one really powerful phrase, 为真不破. It translates to, only truth is unbreakable. And this isn't just some catchy slogan for them. It's their entire operating principle. It's the weapon they believe they can use against a regime they say is built on falsehoods.
And this idea is literally baked right into the name of the movement. See, Balio Gaming breaks down like this. Bal, that means to broadcast, and they're talking specifically about live, unscripted social media. Liao is the stuff, the information, the intelligence that's being revealed, and Jiameng, well, that's the revolution that they believe this broadcast of truth will spark. So that core belief in truth, that's the why. But how does that turn into an actual plan? What do they actually do? Well, that brings us to the movement's strategy for getting this all done. According to their own materials, the strategy has three main parts. First, they want to use insiders to take apart the party from within. They call this Yi Gong Mie Gong. Second, they want to use political and economic pressure from the West, especially the United States. That's Yi Mei Mei Gong. And third, they want to fight an information war, using social media to punch through censorship and get their version of the truth to people directly. Now this is a really, really crucial part of their strategy. The movement says their target is not the 90 million members of the Communist Party. In fact, they frame those people as fellow victims. The real enemy, they say, is the tiny circle of leadership at the very top. Their doctrine actually says that 99% of party members should be considered allies who need to be liberated, not enemies.
And that idea connects directly to another core piece of their stated strategy, a public commitment to nonviolence. The movement's founders say that this is absolutely essential for them to gain legitimacy and, get help from Western countries that are based on the rule of law.
But let's say this whole strategy actually worked. What happens next? What's the endgame? This brings us to the movement's vision for what they call a new China. The sources lay out a pretty clear blueprint. It's called the New China Federation. The key pillars of this vision are things like establishing the rule of law, guaranteeing freedom of religion, and putting in a democratic system of one person, one vote. The main idea is that political power should belong to the public, but property rights should be private and protected. And to try and build this future, the movement makes a really direct pitch to people. They frame getting involved not as giving to charity, but as making a strategic personal investment, an opportunity, as they put it, to help build a different future for you and your family. So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, the whistleblower movement's total reliance on live streaming and social media leaves us with a really critical question for our time. In this age of digital information, what even is the line between a social media campaign and a political revolution? It's a question that might just define what activism looks like in the 21st century. Thanks for joining us.